So I'm going to try to get started right on schedule. We're about half a second into noon time. So I'm going to ask, I do have a couple of co-hosts, Zoom Master. We're going to go ahead and mute everybody when we first get started, or you could mute yourself. Try to keep your noise down. And it's 11 o'clock Chicago time and 12 o'clock Eastern time where Dr. Go is. So welcome everyone. I want to say good morning, but in your area it's good afternoon. My name is George Han Kao Moi. For the people who speak Chinese, and Cantonese Mui Zhen Kao, Mandarin is Mui Zhen Qiu, Polish, I don't know. But I am excited to actually host this co-host this Zoom call as part of the Asian American Exit Network. We are a very informal group that started about 10 years ago. We now a national organization where it's an informal group. We have done for the last 10 years about 70 events. We have about 6,000. The event really center around helping Asian Americans, executive and advocate to support each other and the community. Recent events, we did a job fair in virtual job fair. We have a Silver Career Management Program. We have a delegation to South Pole for learning about international. We have delegation in Shanghai. We have delegation everywhere. Small business owners come together to support each other. Currently, we have two active programs. One, we actually have a what we call Asian American Board Exchange Program, where volunteers to serve on board will sign up. And we also have Asian American nonprofits sign up who are looking for board members. And it's a national program. We're trying to match them based on their interest. That's active right now. Second, inspired by actually Dr. Go, we're launching a Asian American author series, which is coming up early September, to give Asian American author opportunity to showcase their book. So this is kind of a trial and pilot program for me, but really the initiative comes from Dr. Go, and most of you who know Dr. Go, she means business when she say win business with relationship. I could never say no to Dr. Go based on our relationship in business. So with that, I want to just open up the meeting by introducing Dr. Go, who's going to welcome everyone. And Dr. Go, you have a PowerPoint, I believe you want to share. You want to go ahead? Dr. Go, here you go.
I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for spending your precious time together with us today. We truly have a global audience today. We have audience from USA, China, Japan, Korea, and Canada. So today's, we choose the good luck day of 8/8 from 12 to 1 p.m., 60 minutes. We'd like to interact with you and help you to become even more successful in winning business with relationships, communication strategies inspired by entrepreneurs and Taoism. And this book is a work of love out of 3.5 years of work, from interviewing the very smart entrepreneurs to participant observation of observing myself. How can I be successful in begging for money as a fundraiser for South Pole Conference, nonprofit organization, how we can support ourselves. And also participant observation of my own students to look at intergenerational communication. How can we embrace the incoming millennials and Gen Z workers in the workforce? So I got inspired by the these entrepreneurs, my own students, as well as ancient Chinese books that I was reading, including I Ching, Tao Te Ching, and Huangdi Neijing. These are cornerstone books in Taoism and Chinese traditional medicine. So I borrowed a lot of metaphors from these books to provide you fresh viewpoints to look at business. So I really appreciate you all being here today. And let's go to the next slide. So that's the front and back cover of the book. And I want to especially thank the endorsers for my book, Mr. Dan Forsman, Chairman, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Georgia Properties, Mr. Atta Khan, Director, International Specialty Sales, Delta Airlines, Dr. Jagdish Sheth, Professor of Business, Emory University, as well as George Mui. George Mui endorsed it in also and printed his messages printed in the book. So the book is available at various different platforms. And I'm so proud to introduce today's panelist. And of course, you've already met our most wonderful and entertaining moderator, George Mui, founder and director of Asian American Executive Network. It's a national organization for Asian Americans, and they are the host of today's event. And then we have the panelist, myself, who is the least important. I want to introduce Mr. Rick Ko, former Senior Vice President, Turner Broadcasting System, and Ms. Jessica Cork, Vice President, YKK Corporation of America, Ms. Deanne Golden, President and CEO, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Georgia Properties. You can see them on the screen. And they will interact with you. Why are they chosen? Because number one, they're smart. Number two, they're good looking. Number three, they are the ones among the 20 global business leaders and entrepreneurs I interviewed. And so today I want to extend my special recognitions to, I think by now we have 100 people registered, George Mui. We have 100 because when I made the PowerPoint last night, it was 80, but some people, you know who you are, like to register at the last minute. So today we got 20 more people to sign up. So now we have 100 and the audience from USA, China, Japan, Canada. And you are business leaders, entrepreneurs, investors, nonprofit organization leaders, consultants, lawyers, bankers, scholars, and just citizens who want to have personal enhancement to become smarter and happier, hopefully, after reading my book. We also have government officials who work at U.S. State Department, the state of Georgia, the state of Alabama, and Consulate General of Japan in Atlanta. So among the audience today, we have business people, we have nonprofit, as well as government officials and diplomats. Other than the panelists, some attendees were also among the 20 global business leaders and entrepreneurs I interviewed for the book. I especially would like to recognize Mr. Rob Stryer, President, M Style Marketing, and Ms. Marcy Sperry, founder of Vivid IP. I know my students are very familiar with these names now because they read my book. I also would like to thank SOPO conference advisors, Mr. Kun Su and Ms. Stella Xu, among the audience. Also among the audience, I have my colleagues who are KSU leaders, deans, faculty, staff, and students. And I told George Mui that my students are my bosses. So I have a lot of bosses here. I have to behave. So the topics in the book can be divided into 5 parts. Chapter 1 to 7 talk about secrets and strategies of business relationship building, how to build relationship, strengthen relationship, and turn every customer a return customer, and close more and more deals by watching and observing what they want and what they need so that we can provide a product and service that solve their problem, make them happy. Once you solve your clients' problems, make them happy, become a consultant for them, they will reward you with business deals very naturally. Chapter 8, we talk about intergenerational communication and the importance of online reviews, how to improve your online review, how to participate in online review, social media marketing, and how to, how different generations communicate differently and how we can adapt to their preference of communication. Servant leadership is talked about in chapter 9. So why did I want to include a chapter on leadership? Because I interviewed all these leaders. What a great opportunity to record how they lead so that we also learn how to lead, because each of us is a leader of our life, our family, our communities. And chapter 10 talk about embracing change. Rather than wrestling with change, resisting change, it's better to embrace change so that we can move forward with the change. Chapter 11 talk about work-life harmony instead of work-life balance, which is very difficult, almost impossible to achieve because we are using the same smartphone. We can no longer walk out of work to enter life because we're always in the same smartphone. So now let's change our perspective to try to achieve work-life harmony. And it's very important that I like to introduce this metaphor to you because the whole book talk about roots, growth, nutrition, irrigation. So my department chair said, you're learning the whole new area, flora and fauna. Yes, I learned a lot about roots and things like that. And I remember I spent a whole week to study the function of roots. So I compare trust as roots. So if you compare your relationship as an apple tree, then that trust is the roots. Similarity are they're both invisible, but they can grow huge and deep. Root is where the relationship eat and drink, maintain nutrition, and to support the tree. So then we have the tree trunk and the flowers. A lot of people are all talk, no action. That's just all flowers, no fruit. that's my analogy. So anyway, I use that analogy for the entire book. And there are 6 steps of communication strategy development, is starting from I, thou, humility for the self, respect for the other. Of all the leaders I interviewed, they're all very humble people. The most humble, I would say, Mr. Alex Gregory. I interviewed him and he thanked me for interviewing him. And then he sent me a thank you card for interviewing him. And then he said, oh, don't mention about me. I am nothing. And then he came to my class to be a guest speaker for my students. And he was standing there to open the door for my students. So my students thought maybe he's a janitor. And so he came in, he's the guest speaker. He's the former president, CEO, and chairman of the board. So anyway, I can never be on his level, but he is my role model. So humility for the self and respect for the other. You're like, okay, some people say, why do I need to be humble? I'm very successful and I am the head of my company. The secret of success, the secret of leadership is humility. I want to give you this analogy. I'm sure all of you have been to the ocean, or maybe you're thinking of going to ocean for a vacation. Why is the ocean so big? Because it's low level of ground attract water. Water would go from creeks to river to lake and all the way to the ocean. Water seeks the lowest ground and And this is like between followers and leadership. If leaders stand at a low ground and be humble, then everyone will follow you naturally because they're going to fall down to the lowest ground. Number 2, selection. It's so important we are selective on the relationships. Each of us have limited time. And by the way, you selected today's Zoom webinar, and I thank you so much because I become, for this 60 minutes, become your priority. You're not with your children, you're not with your family, you're with us. So you selected us. And so we need to be selective in business deals. You know, you want to make sales. You might want to make sales to 100 companies. I would recommend that maybe you select 10 first and focus on those 10 relationships. Try to grow the roots. You got to irrigate the root, but observe the tree. Sometimes we give too much water to plants. I know I have made mistakes. I'm thinking, okay, this flower is not blossoming. Give it water. You know what? In the end, the root died. Some roots really just don't like water. Observation, we need to observe. And we need to observe what the clients want, what clients need. Don't sell them something they don't want at all, they don't need. You need to observe to find out what they want. Sometimes you ask them, people are shy, they don't tell you, or they're not ready to tell you, but you can observe. It's very simple. Caring, we have to care for the relationship. And if those of you who are gardeners, you know how difficult to grow some vegetables. You have to care for these vegetables. They're like little babies. So my husband said, gosh, we spend so much money and just produce a few tomatoes. You know, we pay for the plants, we pay for the pots, and I spend time and I actually talk with my plants. But you know, there are a lot of enemies. There are the weather being bad, not enough sunshine, worms and birds, and the worst of all, squirrels. So you have to care about. George Moore is laughing because he hates squirrels. Squirrels.
I don't hate squirrels. They.
Okay. We have to care for the relationship, and we have to. And then some people say, "Gosh, Dr. Gao, I have listened to you. I have observed the root and the plant. I'm being careful. I talk with the plant every day. It's still not producing anything." Let me ask you, how many yields does an apple have? Once a year. It takes 1 year to produce those apples. 1 year. And then I've been to the pecan plantation. It takes 10 years for a pecan tree to produce anything. And Christmas tree, 10 years. And in the end, try to close deal when the time is right. So go from humility from self to the respect for the other, and respect for the other, listening, and mutual liking is important. People like to do business with whom they like. You need to make yourself likable. Okay, like my students say, I don't know how to do that. So I said, smile, practice smile. People all like smiling. Number 2, just compliment them, saying, you look great today. I like your hairstyle. I like your outfit. You smell good. All right, so people like compliments. And compliment include face-to-face and also engaging on social media on comments. You can compliment them. When people like you, they will do business with you. And that's the end of my short presentation. Thank you so much for your attention.
Wonderful. And it's a wonderful book. I thank you for the opportunity to read it ahead of time and offer my little testimonial. And what I want to do is get started with the panel conversation. But before we do that, I just want to share a tidbit on history, how I met Dr. Go. And I was on assignment at the White House Initiative to be a speaker at South Pole. And it was a trip that I didn't want to make because I have too many already. But I make it anyway. But as soon as I met Dr. Go, I realized this could be a wonderful opportunity for me to learn more about international business. And we've developed pretty good relationship over the years. Even when I was not at the White House anymore, we went back to the Department of Commerce. We did a lot of work together in terms of I think we attended the first South Pole in China, and I brought my boss along because I want to make sure he knows about it, so he continued to approve my trip to South Pole. And after I retired, Dr. Go invited me back as a former government employee. She didn't have to do that, and offer opportunity for me to learn a lot more because I'm running an international business. Pre-pandemic, of course, because of pandemic, I'm running a domestic business now. But building relationships is very important, and Dr. Go certainly know how to do it. So before I get started with the panel, I'd like to take the opportunity to ask each one of the panelists, how did you develop your relationship with Dr. Go to the point where she gets you talking for almost 2 hours interviewing? I will start with Deanne Golden.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. And the blessing I had, as I like to say, of having Dr. Gao come bring the sunshine into my life, and to be a part of this journey with her and to learn from her and to learn from you all and to be with you all, was through my chairman, Dan Forsman, who also is just such a proud partner with Dr. Gao and what we've done with SAPAL through Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Georgia Properties. And as he became our chairman, he introduced me to her. And for the moment of our first connection, it has just been a wonderful opportunity. So it's great to be with you all.
Thank you. Wick?
So I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Gao through a former student of hers, and then I was asked to speak at a SAPAL conference. And what you'll find out from Dr. Gao is that she's a practitioner of what she preaches. She's a delight to be around, and she doesn't ever push things beyond the timing that nature would have. So that was in 2017. And although we didn't really stay in contact, when she reached out to me, she had made such an impression on me 4 years later that I was happy to do the interview. So it's a testament to who she is, and I'm grateful.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the, Jessica?
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be with you today. I have known Dr. Gao for quite a long time. I want to say maybe 10 years. And the introduction for me was through YKK's former CEO, Alex Gregory, who Dr. Gao mentioned previously. But I really think of her as being the master connector. And I'm trying to learn about her techniques, because what I appreciate the most about her is not only all of the opportunities that she has given to me, but she has also facilitated many introductions between me and other people who have proven to be very instrumental in building business and building relationships throughout Georgia. So everyone really needs to study her technique of finding the people who need to know each other and connecting them. And those opportunities always bear fruit as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So Dr. Go, if I may, could you have your student post where they could get the book on the chat?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sounds good. So I want to go ahead and just again frame up for you how we're going to do this for the next 40 minutes. So we have some prepared questions I'm going to ask the speakers and have them share their insight on building relationship. And we're going to save about 20 minutes or so everyone have an opportunity to ask questions to Dr. Go or any one of the speaker. So is that good? So we actually, Rick, I want to ask you, I noticed that quite a few people signing in with last name Cole. Are those all your relatives there that you're bringing on?
Many of them are, right? Yeah, I think that had I read this book or had the opportunity to read this book earlier in my career, I would have saved years and years of trial and error learning.
Wow, yeah.
So I invited my nephews and nieces in the hope that they won't have to live through that and can learn just from reading the book.
See, nothing get past me, Rick. I see the codes. I said, that must be related. Okay, I'm a professional. I know how this stuff works. And in fact, my secret is my name is Moy, which also will translate into Moy. It's actually a MOI association in the United States. So whenever I need help, I call up all the MOIs. Hey, I need 6 people more on this conference. I usually get them. And the fact that I have 5 brothers and sisters actually helps too. But so the whole idea of relationship kind of extend on a personal level and a business level. So with that, I'm gonna go dive into some of these questions Dr. Go have thoughtfully put together. So I don't expect everyone to answer every questions, but let's start with, what do you see as the most significant contribution of this new book by Dr. Go? I'll start with Jessica.
Well, there were so many great tidbits of information, I think, that came out from the book. But my favorite part was her win-win-win paradigm that she introduces, is that, the idea that for relationship to be sustainable, it has to be beneficial, or has to have some like winning points for all the parties that are involved. So not just for yourself, but for the other party, but then there's sometimes other stakeholders outside of that. And actually, it really reminded me a lot of YKK's cycle of goodness philosophy, Dr. Gao, when I was reading that, because my company also has this concept that the idea that no one prospers without rendering benefit to others. So you can't have any gain unless you are looking for ways to benefit the other people in the relationship. So the way that YKK defines that is, we have our customers, our employees, and also society are considered our 3 stakeholders. So we think of it as a cycle, is we have to, first of all, have good products that are going to benefit the customer and add value. I think Dr. Gao talks about the importance of just adding value to it, not just enough to have benefit, but to add something. So we always are thinking, when we're developing products, not just to have a product, but like, how is this product going to add value, to go above and beyond what the customer's expectation is. The customer is happy with that product, going to purchase more for our company. That will, of course, lead to profit, but then we don't take all of that profit for ourselves. We're making sure that we're sharing that with our employees, who are, of course, instrumental in developing the products, but also giving back to our local communities, because our local community, the society that's surrounding us, is just as important a stakeholder as the customer and the employees are. And we're constantly thinking about those 3 stakeholders when we're making decisions about how to conduct our business. If it's good for the customer, but it is not good for the employees and not good for society, that's not something that we want to pursue. And one other thing, real quick thing that I wanted to mention, it reminded me a little in Japanese history. There, in the starting from the 1600s, there were these merchants that became very successful because they followed a path called Sampo Yoshi in Japanese, which is what we call like 3-way satisfaction, or you may hear these days like the triple bottom line or something. But it was the same idea. It was you have to benefit the seller, the buyer, and the local community. So it's something that, I think often comes up throughout the narrative of I think Asian history in particular, but I really got a lot of that out of that section.
Thank you, Jessica, for that great point. Deanne, you want to share your perspective also, Deanne?
Absolutely. And I'll first echo what Jessica said about the win-win-win philosophy. That really struck home with me, and it resonates with our vision statement here at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, which is the right choice. And much as Dr. Gao, shares in the book, if it's good for the community, if it's good for humanness, if it's good for our agents, it's good for our clients, it is the right choice, which is also of our vision statement. And so she reminds us to unplug from devices and to get back out of just always the high tech world, and to be more in touch with high touch. And, Dr. Gao, as we first met that day, I remember we talked about, that we're gifted with, 2 eyes and 2 ears and 1 mouth. And we need to constantly be reminded to use them in direct proportion and to listen more. And so I found that another significant contribution, particularly hearing from all of the other incredible leaders in the case studies. This is not just even a fascinating book, a fun book, a dynamic book, an educational book, but it is a guidebook So I'm finding I'm actually going to it for insight, ideas, and I learned also learning more and more about the Eastern culture and being able to coexist beautifully. So it's the best.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And then I also want to add, it's not just a guidebook, it's a book that could be used in a professional education environment. I noticed she asks you questions for discussions. I'm surprised she might come to your house and give you a test too when you buy the book. Anyway, Dr. Go, I just want to add that I know that all our Chinese friends love August 8th. I remember the Olympic was August 8th, 1988 in China. But I question that actually because today was 8/8 and I only caught one fish this morning. So it might not be a luckiest day, but on the other hand, I could have caught none, right? So anyway, with that tidbit, I'm going to move to the next question. Talking about digital age. Rick, I'm going to give you first shot at this. Why are relationships important in your industry and business, even in the digital age?
So I guess for trade to be successful, you have to have these macro things in place. You know, a legal system, standardized weights of measures, a monetary system, transport systems. But the fact is that those facilitate business. And at the end of the day, the transaction happens between an individual and another individual. And so the question is that is it important in the digital age? Is that it is more important in the digital age because we don't have that face-to-face advantage that we used to have in many circumstances. So we rely on trust intermediaries, as Dr. Gao pointed out. We look at reviews. 90% plus of people look at reviews to make a transaction. And so back to it, at the end of the day, trust is the basis of relationships, and relationships are the basis of business.
Great point. Thank you for that. So I also want to mention to the audience about 10 more minutes here for the speakers, but just kind of prepare yourself to ask question, hopefully meaningful question to our author and our speakers, and try not to make too many statements. Just go ahead and ask the question. And also you feel free to write the question into the chat. We do have two professional students there who could make sure that I answer. I have the speaker answer those questions that you put in chat. Okay, so on digital age, let's stay on digital age for a minute. Dr. Go, I'm going to give you a shot at saying a few more words about the relationship, why it's important even in the digital age.
Yes. So some people might think, okay, especially perhaps Gen Zs, think as soon as I was born, I was given an iPad, an iPhone. That's how I communicate. I text. And I go to chat rooms and I go to different social media platforms. That is okay to spend time and attend yourself and to learn. But in order to build a productive, trustworthy relationship, and as Rick Cole mentioned, we have to build trust. And in order to build trust, face-to-face communication is critical because we have to, people, we are human beings. We're not AI. We're not machines. So we have to listen to the person and observe the person and read between lines and create shared memories. The way to build trust is to spend time together, to create shared memories together. So some companies they're practicing this. For example, Amazon, Amazon Teams, at least they will meet. Now that many teams are adopting remote working style, but they would meet once a year or once every season to be a tourist together, go to Chicago together, go to Times Square together, New York, have lunch together, and go to a bar together. And then they will separate. They go to different cities, go to Texas, West Coast, New York. And then when they email each other, they always remember the time we spend together. And they say, okay, Chris, I remember Chris, he's a nice guy. He's a funny guy. He can drink some beer. So, that just, it's become a glue for the organization. It becomes the nutrition for the relationship. So I think, as Rick Cole said, even in the digital age, it's even more important for relationship building.
Yeah, great point. And what I could offer one example. Actually, I have a lot of friends in Chicago, and we don't get together until we make the trip to Atlanta to attend Southpaw. And we spend a day and a half together and get reacquainted. So that is it's hard to keep relationship building, even in the same city sometimes. But finding a common target destination actually works out pretty well. So let's take on to the next topic that Dr. Go wants us to dive in. This had to do with Chapter 8. I do know that all three speakers has different quotes in it. I don't think I had time to read all the quote, but you could share the wisdom through your conversation. But the question is, how do you adopt your communication style to different generations, employee and customer? I'm going to start with you, Deanne.
Well, thank you. And I think it starts with being a constant learner. We have to show the respect to each generation to understand their perspective, not just speak to them as we want spoken to us, but how they want to be spoken to. And I think that's at the core and the heart of it. And Dr. Gal really highlights that in this Chapter 8. And then with that, I'll go back to my earlier quote about listening. Don't just communicate based on how you feel people want to be talked to or spoken with. Listen first, ask questions, and then adapt, be flexible, tailor your communication styles, and then ask for a feedback loop. Recently we had the pleasure of having some amazing interns work with us that are the bosses of Dr. Gao. I see a couple on this call already. And I will tell you a perfect example was, and I see Katie right there in the center, we had them here helping us translate some of our buyer and seller guides into various languages to be able to speak in the natural cultures that would really make people feel comfortable. And this incredible team of interns took it a step further, and they offered to do a panel for our sales professionals who in the nation, the average realtor is 56 years old. And so our Gen X and millennial panelists came and talked to our more seasoned associates, top agents that have been doing this a long time, about how they need to understand the buying process, what they need to hear, what they need to be given. And I think that just echoes everything that Dr. Gao talks about in this chapter of listening to each other, learning from each other, having mutual respect, and being able to ensure that what you say is really what's being heard and what is needed to be heard at the time it needs to be. So thank you.
Thanks for that. Rick, do you want to jump in for your thoughts?
In the book, it mentioned that meaning is the essence of communication, right? And I think all of us have probably had examples where our words just weren't enough to relay the message, right? So I'll go back to what Ms. Golden had said, and is that if we want that meaning to come across, it's imperative that we use the form and the distribution method that would increase the reception to the person that we are intending that to be to. So you have to really find out how they want to be communicated with, back to the platinum rule that was in the book, and find out how they want to be communicated with, and then follow that form.
Okay, thanks for sharing. I'm going to read one of this quote here. Lead by example, communicate with words, but always back it up with action. Jessica, you know what this person is talking about?
Sure. Well, I was going to say that's one of YKK's values. There also is lead by example. But for sure, I think when communicating, especially when communicating internally with employees, all the beautiful words in the world are it's wonderful and people love to hear these messages, but if you're not actually following through with what you are saying, I think especially your employees can absolutely see through that, and will realize that you don't really mean what you say. So we talk about that a lot within YKKs. We have a lot of discussions about our philosophy and our values, and of course every factory in the world has these up as posters on the wall. But if we have them, up on posters on the wall, but then we have, especially, managers that are not following through right away, the employees are going to say those are just words and don't mean anything. So that part I think is crucial. Is your actions really do speak louder than words.
Great. So we are actually coming up on having only 20 minutes left. So I'm going to pause here. I stopped asking questions that was given to me by Dr. Go. I'm not a good student. I don't listen to my professors, but I'm gonna invite. That's probably a better word. Everyone to think about what you learned so far, and any question that you might have. So right now I see a lot of my friends there. Hey, Cheddar, how are you doing? So let's see if you're willing to turn on your camera. I'd like to know who I'm talking to. Hello, everyone. Stella Sue. I'm going to call you out if you don't turn on your camera. Grace, hey, Grace. Linda Sun, are you there? Are you just guys pretending to be there? Are you guys Zoom crashers? Could you turn on your camera? I'd like to see one of these. Like Dr. Go, you need to smile because I'm about to take a picture. And most people that knows me by now, that when I do moderating on stage, I always try to do a selfie for the heck of it. But at the end, I say, oh, that crazy guy, he gonna do a selfie on Zoom? All right, come on, let's go. Turn on your camera. I have my, whoa. This Mr. Sue Kuhn from APAC State Department just said something on the ground, something. Anyway, okay. I'm going to wait till everybody turn on the camera before I take the picture. And actually, you're being recorded, so we could take a snapshot anytime. But I'm going to have you, if you don't mind, just, oh, Peter is making an excuse. Can't turn on the camera for some reason. Okay, Peter. Now, Peter actually is my friend who's going to moderate our future Asian American author series. Peter, you better fix that right now. Turn on your camera. No excuse. Okay, first question, if you don't mind, you could just raise your hand. Oh, I see Charlie. Is that Charlene? You have your hand raised, so you get the first question.
Thank you. Hi, Dr. Gao.
Hi, so good to see you, CJ.
And good to be here. I wanted to pose to the panel, since we all have read the book, the win-win-win strategy obviously stuck out for me. And I have said that to Dr. Gao on a number of occasions when we've met for class and during our summer sessions. The fourfold love strategy. That's another part of the book that really stood out for me. How do you, as leaders in your industry, how do you see yourself implementing that in your business relationships, or how have you implemented that in your business relationships in the past? With examples, if possible.
Okay, I'll take one speaker to answer the question, then move on to the next question. Anyone takers before I call on you? Deanna, I see you're ready.
Well, absolutely. And it's interesting. I notated that segment, so highlighted it over and over because it's true. Being a leader, it really does equate to the heart metaphor. And I learned as I read that chapter from the Taoism philosophy that I was not aware of. And, oftentimes leaders are expected to be, very decisive and tough and stern and commanding and omnipotent. And so often you think that they're not doing it with heart and care for the people. But something that my mentor, Dan Forsman, really ingrained in me is that you've got to put the people first. And you've got to care. We're all human beings and we're all here and we're people. We're humans serving other people. And so while we do have to make sometimes difficult business decisions, we have to make difficult personal decisions, when you do it from a place of heart and care and compassion. And I love the LEAD acronym too, that Dr. Gao, listening, empowering, attitude, and decision making. And when you think about, if you do that from a place of heart and putting yourself in the other person's shoe, you can definitely achieve a win-win-win, as we learn more and more about in the book, rather than just doing it from a kind of myopic or a solo focus. So I think that came out as your question, shows a great sign that you are a heart-led leader yourself, because it's so important. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I've also always heard, from the great Maya Angelou says that, and then likability over capability. There's a lot of people that are capable, but if people don't like you and know that you care and that you can be trusted and that you're really coming at a place with their best interests at the forefront, all the capability in the world is lost.
Thank you. Thank you for that great answer. Next question. You realize somebody's raising their hand. Is that Linda? Linda's son? You gotta tilt your camera a little bit so we can see you. You could turn on the mic. There you go. Linda, questions?
So I want to recognize Linda Sun. Linda is my colleague teaching in the Asian Studies program at Kennesaw State University, a very fast-growing program here in USA. Linda is my colleague who pushed me to organize this Zoom webinar. So
all right, good job, Linda.
Yeah, so I just want to thanks to Dr. Gao has been doing these things and organized the conference for years. And she's definitely a leader in our community too. I mean, the Asia community, our Chinese community in Atlanta, Georgia. So she has been well known in communication and doing contributions to the society. So my question is to Dr. Gao, and pardon me for my voice. I have a sore voice these days. So how do I introduce your book to the freshman students who just came to college? And the book is long. I do not think the student can afford to buy the book, but I definitely have a copy, and I would post the chapter to the D2L for my student to read, start to get to know the book. So which chapter that you can recommend me to post and have the student to start learning the book? Thank you.
I will tell my publisher it's actually illegal to and post because it's copyrighted material. But,
oh my gosh.
Yes, but you can post the first. I think it's allowed to post the first case study, which is me making mistakes ordering drinks with the Coca-Cola CFO. For the freshman students, I would say they can read my book and apply to the growth of the interpersonal relationship. It can be applied to dating. It can apply to marriage. It can be applied to their relationship with their parents and grandparents. That's intergenerational communication. And also in terms of the price of the book, if they buy an ebook, it's only $13.49. So it's less than $15. Ebook, students can buy that with at Amazon and also Barnes and Noble ebook.
Okay, so now I understand, but it's not it's okay for me to print the chapter to do the handout to my student. Is that right?
Well, don't ask, don't tell. Hopefully my publisher is not here listening.
I got it.
Yeah.
Well, Linda, I'm a businessman, so I'm going to offer you some advice. One, ebook is only a price of a Chipotle. Okay, you take your student, ask them to stop going to Chipotle for one day, they could afford to buy the book. Second, most of the students will most likely will read from their little cell phone instead of reading your paper anyway. So allow them to do that. Then you say you can move on with this. All right. And also, by the way, they could do a fundraiser to buy a book. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
They have to be creative. Anyway, sorry, I'm a business person. I don't give away anything free. All right. Any other questions? We have another 10 minutes or so. You know, I'm going to start calling you out, right, my friends? All right, I'm going to call out one. Name is John Cole. I saw John Cole in the audience. So is that John? Wick, is that your nephew?
Might be my brother.
Oh, brother
A
John.
lot of Poles.
Yes. So one of the audience who is my former student, Anna Barnes, she said it looks like the Kindle version of the book is very affordable.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
$13, I think it said.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, we have a quiet crowd here. Oh no, Bruce Meyer, you are a boss of Dr. Go. I know you have questions for your employee here.
I do have one question. Oh, yes.
There you go. See, it works.
For you, Dr. Gao, it's kind of leading off of what Miss Cork said near at the beginning, but I also see you as like a connection master. So, like, what is kind of the narrative of like your first, I guess, connection that you made or like made with KSU, and it led you to see like, yeah, I can do this, I can make more and get to where you are now. What was the start?
Yeah, Bryce, that's an excellent question. So I came to the US in 1998. So now I'm reviewing my age. So 1998 as a graduate student, I knew nobody. And then, I got my master's and PhD degree. I came to KSU, I knew nobody other than my supervisor. So how come I get to know all of these people, all of you wonderful people? Is one by one. Personal network. Go with low-hanging fruit. So Bryce, whoever you want to meet in today's network, please ask me, and then I will introduce them to you. If I don't know any of them, I will ask George Mui to introduce them to us. So it's the power of personal networks. And that's I also practice promoting this event as comparing different platforms of social media versus Sopo listserv. So Sopo listserv gain us 20%, but 80% actually come from Facebook posting, Instagram posting, LinkedIn posting. I find LinkedIn posting being the most effective. And another point is that we have to treat people with respect, and we treat people with care. And as Deanne and Jessica mentioned, we need to provide extra value. Find out how we can help them, how we can make their life easier, how we can provide value to their life and their business. And then people will automatically come back to you.
Great point. The spirit of the Asian American Exam Network, by the way, is not what you could take from the network. It's what you could contribute. And a lot of people come to look for opportunity to contribute, and therefore they actually get a lot from it. So that's a great point. So next questions. I know Grace is sitting there.
Yes, and we have Daphne Huang. I'd like to recognize Daphne Huang. She works for Delta Airlines. She's one of the corporate executives at Delta Airlines. And Daphne Huang has a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
How are you?
Great.
You are 216715. Is that employee ID?
Yes, but you
Okay.
all can use that. You can get actually a special deal. You signed up with Delta American Express corporate.
Oh yeah, you know you've been trying to get me for 6. All
Actually,
right.
you have my number there. I do have a question because we have so many of female leaders on the panel. I would like to ask any one of you to share if you see any difference in terms of building relationship with between male and female leaders. Are there any challenges? What's your best, practice advice for female leaders trying to make it?
Jessica, you want to take that?
I'd like to invite our panelists to.
Yes, Jessica.
Yeah, I was going to say, where do I start with that question? That's a hard question to answer.
We have 7 minutes.
Yeah, I know. And I would love to have Deanne weigh in on that, on my response as well. But I think one of the challenges that I have had over the years, not only being female, but also being quite introverted personality type. So I'm not, in many ways, not what we stereotypically think of as a leader. And I struggled for a long time with trying to become someone that I'm not, which is really to act, trying to force myself to act more in the way of what we typically define as a leader. But I was really lucky. We've already mentioned YKK's former CEO, Alex Gregory, a couple of times. But Alex, I think, is also rather introverted, but also really a servant leader. And seeing him in action and being the way that he was, which is to lead, kind of lead from behind, lead by supporting, lead by building relationships, and lead by really being empathetic with people, helped me to see that I didn't necessarily have to change who I was in order to be a leader. I could be a leader in my own way, and it may not look like other leaders look, but it was just as valid, and I can also bring certain different skills to the table. The second thing about being a woman specifically that I do want to say is I have 4 children. And when I first joined, YKK, I had 4 kids under 7 years of age, and it was a lot to try I've worked my entire career. I've never taken any time off. I think I had 6 weeks maternity leave, and it was right back at work. And what I've struggled with also is trying to balance, work and home, and feeling guilty all the time for I've got to leave to pick up kids at daycare. Kids are sick. You suddenly have to be off. And earlier in my career, I spent a lot of time feeling guilty about that or apologizing for it. And, now that I'm older and kids are more independent, I'm realizing, that the, you have different points in your life where you can devote different amount of time to activities. And I think that Dr. Gao in the book also talks about the work-life integration, right? Rather than the work-life balance. It's there are times where I have to put priority on my family. There are times when I need to put priority, or I can put priority on work. And what I'm trying to do within my own organization now is to try to especially support the younger working moms, to make them feel like it's okay when you need to leave, to pick up your kid. It's okay when you need to leave because your kid is sick. It's fine. You're going to have plenty of time when they're older, you'll probably devote more time to work when they're older, but when they're younger, a lot of times they need both their mom and their dad. So I'm trying to lead by example in that way. I wasn't always so good at it when I was of that age, but now that I'm past that time, I'm just really trying to support them. So, Deanne, do you have something to add at all to that? I would like to hear what you have to say too.
Yeah. Ditto, and ditto. And in the book, and I believe it was Mr. Taylor, Brad Taylor of Coca-Cola, that talks about be you and be comfortable in your own skin. And Jessica, that's exactly what I'm hearing you say, and I relate to that so much. And you have to be courageous enough and find just that inner boldness to be you and let that shine through, because the authenticity and the genuineness, if you're just giving it your best and trying your hardest, and we'll all make mistakes. And so back to what you do just with the generational and with different cultures, ask for continuous feedback. Ask others how you're doing. Just like with male counterparts, is my communication resonating? Could I do better? Could I be more efficient with you? But at the end of the day, you can only be you, and just try to become your best you. And if people know you're giving it your all, it will win. And I'm also a mother, and you do have to realize that everywhere you are, be there. And you talk about that too, Dr. Gao. Be omnipresent where you're at, and when you're there, be there. And the kids will be there for you, and then you're going to give them your best, and your partner will be there and give them your best when you're there. But wherever you are, give it your full intentionality and be present in mind.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Hey, with respect to your time, we have about 3 more minutes. What I want to do is close the panel conversation with perhaps a 30-second tidbit, golden nugget, advice from each one of the speakers, including Dr. Go. I'll start with Rick. I know. 30 seconds.
All right, real quick. The book is full of wisdom, but the problem with wisdom is sometimes even if you believe in it, it's how do you incorporate it? And the book is prescriptive in that mode. It gives us frameworks and models that allow us to implement those changes in our life. So it enhances our life. It increases our chances of being successful in business. And so I think that it wasn't just about the wisdom, it was about the model of how to make it useful. And so for that, I was grateful too.
Wonderful. Good point, Rick. Jessica?
Yeah, I agree for sure with what Rick just said. And also, please be sure to take a look at Chapter 9, the section on servant leadership. I did talk about that previously, but I think I first heard that concept when I joined YKK. I wasn't familiar with it before. And I think that's all part of being a servant leader, is like part of that win-win-win paradigm that was mentioned before. It's leading through supporting other people, through empathy, through listening to other people and trying to find value for them, and then everyone wins. So please check out that chapter for sure.
Thanks, Jessica. Deanne?
I made the investment for my team of, I believe it was 25 copies of the book. And with our leadership team, I've gifted them one, because I truly believe it will be that life-changing personally, interpersonally, and professionally. And so in order to cultivate better communication within each other and in our culture, I felt it would be so helpful for them to be enlightened with the wisdom and the perspective. And then we're going to talk about it. Again, back to what Rick just said, you can't just read the book once and put it down. Make it a playbook, a guidebook, a manuscript for life work and play, and achieve that harmony. So I'm really excited. And Dr. Gao, I'll keep you posted, and maybe we'll have you come do a special segment for us with our team.
Right. Wonderful. Dr. Go, it's 12 o'clock, but I'll give you the last word.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for your time. And I would like to share with you the essence of chapter 11, the last chapter. In the last chapter, I talk about work-life harmony. And in order to achieve work-life harmony, we need to pay attention to 4 aspects or 4 group of people. The first group is your inner self. It's so important we talk with our inner self. Observe our inner self, respect our inner self, and be happy with who we are. Number 2, spend time with nature and God, and so that you you're under the heaven and on earth. That's Taoist philosophy. Number 3, spend time with family, because you might regret it 10 years down the road. All of these entrepreneurs I interviewed, they work so hard in their 20s and 30s and 40s, and then they say, I cannot get my time back. So don't wait. Spend time now with your family, even though you're very busy with work, but try to carve some time with your family, because that's the quality you have, improving the quality of your life. finally spend time with community. When I say community, for example, today's Zoom community, your classmates, your employees, and your business partners. So these are the 4 groups of people that you need to spend time with: inner self, nature and God, family, and community. And I hope you find a way to achieve work-life harmony and enhance your overall happiness and your longevity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Go, for your wisdoms. And I want to close this meeting by thanking everyone to join and be very participatory in this conversation. And I do want to do one more bit of advertising. The Asian American Excellence Network is putting together a Asian American author series. And I'll make sure that to go forward the next one to you. We actually have the author lined up, and Peter is going to do the moderator, so you don't have to keep listening to George and his craziness. So with that, I'll bid you farewell and enjoy life, and don't forget to take care of your inner self.
Yes, and then 9/9, which is Saturday, September the 9th, we will have a book signing ceremony at one of the Barnes & Noble in Metro Atlanta. Those of you who are in Atlanta, or George, please fly over. So I'll sign your book for you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well, have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.